I was gonna try not to even broach this subject with everything in the news about Shirley Strawberry's husband, but there's just something in this story that everybody's missing. If you're not familiar, Shirley Strawberry is one of the members of the Steve Harvey morning show, and she has a section called Strawberry Letter where people write in their relationship dilemmas, and some of them are pretty out there. And she replies with her wisdom. And because she has this section, it has brought more to the fore the fact that she got into a marriage with a man who was a criminal. Now, what I want to talk about here is the fact that people, I have been on the receiving end of the judgment that comes from being married to a guy who goes to prison. And people will wonder and ask and try to point fingers and blame the woman for how could you not know? How could you not be complicit in these actions? And it's misplaced. Now, let me just give you a quick story time because you need to know how her situation relates to me. Now, some of you may have already heard me talk about the fact that my ex-husband is in prison because after we separated and divorced, he was charged with aggravated sexual assault, 2 counts, and has gone to prison for that. But before that, there was a time that he was in prison. Exactly 4 years, 4 months, and 4 days after we were married, he went to prison charged with a sexual assault. And it was really strange because some people in my family said that he had brought shame on the family. And this was a family member who was not like a blood relative or even a close relative enough to feel like that he was anything more than married into the family. But they felt some kind of shame was brought on the family because what he did was all in the news. I mean, it was all in the news. And it was so bad, you guys, that according to one of the police officers that was interviewed, he was taking a call from one woman who said that she had been assaulted and she wanted to file charges. And while he was taking that call, another officer was taking another call just like that from another woman, blaming the same person. So it was just that out of hand that this guy was just on this rampage. Now, let me just come real clean with this, okay? My ex-husband was dealing with prostitutes, and it was 2 prostitutes that called in. And in the end, the justice system believed these women because there was sufficient evidence to support their claims. And my ex is in prison now because of it. That would be his 2nd incarceration since he and I got married. Now, once we separated, I removed myself from all of our common friends, common acquaintances, because I consciously did not want to be the bitter wife who was calling up people, bad-mouthing my ex, trying to dig out this, that, or the other. At that point, all I wanted to do was to get away and heal because it felt like the walls were closing in on me. And I had shortly before the separation and the culminating event that led me to decide to leave that marriage was an emotional breakdown that landed me in treatment and off work for 6 to 8 weeks. So I had gotten that low. And I decided at that time that I was going to have to do something to change my situation and change my circumstances. Now, it's a whole other story about how I decided to go back into that marriage after he came out of prison. It's a whole other story about the emotional and dramatic healing boot camp I was in that marriage. I will get to that in another video. But for right now, I wanted to make sure that I came clean with you guys about how my story is so much like Shirley's. Now, it came to light after, this is what happened. So his daughter had a child and moved up here to Michigan to be closer to her father. And so when we broke up, and having found out that he had molested my teenage daughter, who was his stepdaughter. I know somebody, I was out to dinner with a friend the other day, and I was trying to tell him these stories, and he was saying, man, I need to take notes because he couldn't keep up. But he had molested my teenage daughter, and I didn't come to have the proof or to totally realize that until well after we had separated. But I will cover that in another story. My life is tore from the flow up back then. But anyway, so a lot of stuff came out after that. I stayed away from everybody involved. I didn't connect with or contact or talk to any of our common acquaintances. And so at some point, I also had wanted to tell his daughter, look, you got a baby girl. You need to keep your baby girl away from him because he ain't right. But it was hounding me. Judge me if you will. It is what it is. This is after the fact, but this is just the truth, y'all. Well, it was strange because one day I was at work and the phone rang. It was his daughter. And I'm so worried about telling her to keep the baby away from her father. But what she did, for some reason, she called me up and upchucked the total boogie on everything that was going on. She told me that when he was with her mother, which they never did marry, when he was with her mother, there was a situation, and now they lived in the projects in Chicago, okay? It was not good. I believe it was Cabrini Green. Just look it up, and you'll know what the history of that is. But she said that the kids had to call my ex and tell him that they had locked themselves out of the house. That meant that he had to leave his job downtown and drive all the way to Cabrini Green and unlock the door. But according to her, he was so angry that he beat her brother within an inch of his life. And she also told me that he had been molesting her older sister for years. So she knew more about his mess than I did. And I had been totally clueless. She also told me that he had beat up on her mother or been violent with her mother. She asked me if he had ever been violent with me. And I told her no. And she said that she and her mother were talking and said, yeah, Linda probably ain't going through that because Linda ain't putting up with that mess. Well, it was a matter of, truthfully, just the fact that when I met him, I was still totally in my trauma. I was bitter and angry. And I remember for some reason, very early on in the relationship, even before we married, I told him, the next MF that puts his hands on me is going to take the butt whooping for the last MF that put his hands on me. And I was not this calm when I said it. I was very bitter, and you can fill in the blanks as to the cuss words I used. And I meant that because I felt like at that point I had beat somebody up in me that was just waiting to come out. And if anybody ever put me in that situation again, I was going to cut freaking loose. And I believe that that stuck in his brain because I remember that there were situations where I would confront him about stuff and he would get so angry with me. It was like you could just see something come down over his face. And I knew that he wanted to hurt me. But by God's grace, he never put his hand on me. So I can't take a lot of credit for the fact that he never did that. But I think he knew that I meant what I said. You go ahead and F around and find out. period. So anyway, so she told me all of this stuff. And then people in the street would start telling me stuff like, that he was a counselor at a nonprofit downtown, and that some lady came in there and told them that he had molested her, and they said, and this was like an all men situation, so no women were on the premises, but they began to believe her when she described a back room that nobody ever accessed. And she would have no other way of knowing that unless her story was correct. So I'm getting all of this crap for months after he and I separate and divorce, right? So I didn't know any of this. There was no freaking way. Now, nobody's told me this, but what I honestly believe is that he was messing around with whoever. I don't know if it was prostitutes or what or otherwise, but he was messing around during at least the last 7 years of our marriage, because he left our bedroom 7 years before we separated, and he never touched me. Now that was aggravating to me at the time, but as I think back, I don't know what I was spared from, because he wouldn't touch me. If he was out there messing around, and thankfully he never, according to my daughter, and I can tell this story because she finally come out public with it. I was trying to keep her out of my stories because that was her story to tell, and I needed to protect her privacy. But now she come out, I can tell y'all, she told me he never penetrated her. So this is a good thing. So God protected her and me from whatever he might have caught being out there messing around. So I said all of that to say this. Let's not judge Shirley, because I'm sure that there were things that were going on and she might have had an inkling about stuff, but in the absence of the proof, this is where I was with it. And that's why I kind of understand where she might have been. In the absence of absolute proof, you can confront this joker if they're hiding something, but you're never going to get the truth. And you're going to get the circular argument about blame the victim, and you don't trust me, and I can't believe you think that, and why would I do all of that crap, and no truth will come out of that conversation. So for me, and I don't know if it was the same with her, but if it was with her the same, I get it. For me, I quit asking this joker anything. Full stop. I ain't asking you nothing because I can't take another freaking lie. I ain't asking you nothing because in my trauma, I can't handle you're getting angry and wanting to hurt me. Now, I'm not saying any of this is right. I'm just coming clean, y'all. I'm just coming clean with it. Because I could sit over here and try to be ashamed of it and everything else, but what good is that going to do you guys? None at all. I am never sitting over here trying to act like the wisdom that I give you guys came out the sky and I've never done anything wrong or stupid. The truth of the matter is, it's from my mistakes that I learned that wisdom, and I'm sharing it here with you, total full authenticity, so that you guys can learn that you don't have to make those same mistakes. So returning back to the Shirley thing. Okay. So my mess, my life, my toe up life got to happen in private because I'm not famous. Ain't nobody paying attention what the heck Linda F. Williams is doing. They don't even know she exists. Thank God. Okay. That gave me an opportunity to work through the hurt and the pain and the shame and the bitterness in private. But with Shirley, she didn't get to do that. Okay. She didn't get to do that. All of the revelations that I got in a phone call, private phone conversation, she's catching through YouTube. She's getting through the internet. Her private conversations with her husband, soon to be ex-husband, are all out there on YouTube for everybody to hear. But what nobody is hearing off of YouTube is the moments and the times in private where she is kicking herself, falsely blaming herself, probably trying to work through some anger and some bitterness. And definitely, like I said, shame, because that's what happens when this crap has been traumatizing to this woman, is all I'm trying to say. Now, I don't know enough about Shirley's story at all to be able to determine what kind of trauma she might have endured in the past, what kind of trauma she endured in her adult relationships. I have no clue about that. But what I can say based on my expertise and my life experience is there was probably something in her background that allowed her to make the choice to be in relationship with this man who meant her absolutely no good and was already married and undivorced when he married her. That comes out. Now, look, y'all, I had a situation like that. One of the times that my husband was incarcerated, there was a time that he went to jail. I remember we were walking down the street and the police stopped us and took our IDs and wound up putting them in the back of the squad car from some stuff that was a family situation, okay? And while he was in there, I think his older brother called me. Now, I'm already reeling, trying to figure out where am I and what universe is this all of a sudden? And this guy calls me up, his brother. And he says this to me. I don't know what else went on in that conversation, but decades later, this is what I remember. He said, I know he was trying to say you guys were married and he was trying to show us the marriage certificate and everything so that we would believe him, but he never divorced his first wife. Okay. Then my next response was, he told me that he and I'll call her. Okay, I'm going to change names here, okay? Let's say that his brother's name was Mac, okay? Mac calls me up and tells me that my ex was never divorced from his first wife that we will call Mary. That's his first wife. I don't know none of this. So my response was, he told me that he and Maria, name change, were never married. And he says to me, what? Maria? No. His first wife's name is Angela. Say, for instance, throwing out names here. And I'm saying, who the heck is Angela? So now I'm finding out that my marriage may be null and void because he never divorced a woman whose name I had never freaking heard before. And I'm stuck on this whole one thing about the one woman, but that wasn't even the woman that his brother was talking about. So imagine getting that kind of news in a public forum. Show some grace to this woman. Show some grace to Shirley Strawberry. I cannot imagine if while I'm reeling emotionally from the trauma of my husband getting snatched off into jail because he did something that he continuously lied to me about during the 4 years between the time that he was charged to the time that he was sentenced. Okay? And I had asked him point blank, were you dealing with this girl? What kind of relationship did you have with this girl that's accusing you of assaulting her? And every time this joker told me no. Now, after the fact, I understand why he didn't want me to go to the court with him that day, but something told me, no, you get up and you go. And everything came out in that. The lies he had told. But imagine, that was public forum enough. Okay. I kind of went blank. So, I don't know what I remember dropping my head down on the back of the seat, in front of me. They were like pews and oh my goodness. I was just completely lost. But I can't imagine going through that in an absolutely public forum like Shirley Strawberry is. Okay? So I can't talk about it because she is me. Okay? And my challenge to anybody that wants to blame her for this or figured she was complicit in this, how could she not know? My challenge to you is put yourself in her shoes and in a public forum. More than that, how about this? How about this? How about this? And you don't have to tell me, but be honest with yourself. Go back and determine what kind of life choices have you made in the past that landed you in a situation where you felt ashamed, where you're not talking about it, where nobody else knows about what you went through. How many times have you been caught up in maybe a domestic violence situation because you chose to be in relationship with somebody? How many mistakes have you made in life that you get to keep on the down low because it didn't happen in a public forum? How many things have you done and choices you made, even in just relationships in your life, that if it played out on a public forum, you would have a challenge with dealing with it? Okay? It's so easy to blame other people, to not understand stuff. It's always blame the victim. We have to understand that Shirley Strawberry is a victim of this mess. She is a victim that's cleaning up the aftermath in her own life behind it. And she's having to do that in a public forum. How well would you stand up to that? I ain't gonna lie. It would be a very difficult thing for me to stand up to that. See, with my ex having done the goofy, I never felt shame for his actions, okay? For some reason, I totally understood that those were choices and decisions he made. I was not involved in that. I was not privy to the decisions he made, and I am just having to clean up the aftermath in my life after he made those decisions. I didn't feel any shame behind that. But I understand that it was in the news, but we were already separated, living separate lives and everything. Now, my late baby sister kept up with the reporter and kept reporting where my ex was, what he was doing, and da-da-da-da-da. I found that out after the fact, but I wasn't involved in any of that. And I didn't feel any shame, but I bet you a dime to a sack of stuff that if I was still in that marriage with him and wound up to everybody, yeah, he's married to her, that I would have a deeper challenge with it. I would tend to feel shame for it. So what I have to say directly to Shirley is this: girl, let me tell you something. The only thing about which you are guilty is giving your heart to the wrong son of a gun. That's full stop. Your responsibility in all of this aftermath begins and ends there. That's the only part of that, Shirley, that you need to even be considering owning of this mess. Okay? Don't attach yourself falsely or take false responsibility or bear false shame for what this person did. They were an equal opportunity knucklehead. They didn't become a knucklehead just when they met you. They didn't decide, oh, I'm going to use my knuckleheadedness to mess with Shirley. These people are stuck on stupid, full stop. Equal opportunity knuckleheads. You just got caught in the crosshairs. That's all that happened here. They were a knucklehead before you met them. They were a knucklehead while you were with them. They're going to continue to be a knucklehead thereafter, whether they're doing that behind prison walls or not. Knucklehead. Okay? But surely don't you take on false shame for that. You are making the right decisions. I know that you know by now that it's turned out that your entire marriage to this fool was invalid. Hallelujah. Maybe you don't have to get a divorce now. Okay? But you're guilty of nothing more than giving your heart to the wrong person. Everything that follows after that, yeah, you got some repercussions to clean up. Probably messed up your credit, set you back financially. Hello, welcome to my world. That line formed behind me. Been there, done that. Okay? And so it takes years to clean up the mess in your life behind that, but just focus on cleaning up the mess. And then As you begin to heal from this trauma, Shirley, just figure out what it was in you that led you to decide that you didn't deserve better. That's what I had to do. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm sitting over here. My last relationship was 10 years ago. 10 years going on 11 years ago. Because I needed to focus on what kept me stuck on stupid, what kept me making those unaffirming life decisions. I have learned that I deserve better, and I'm settling for nothing less. Settling for nothing that will be here in another 10 years, talk about 20 years, unless and until I meet a situation, relationship-wise, where they are bringing it the way I deserve it. Full stop. I'm unrelenting on this. Okay? So Shirley, hold your head up high, knowing that you just walked into the crosshairs of a knucklehead and that you are strong enough to survive this with flying colors. You are going to have, I ain't say it's going to be easy. Every day it's probably going to be a mental struggle. But you start here, Shirley. You don't have to own the wrong somebody did to you. Do not take false responsibility for that. Separate yourself from the decision you made. Understand why you made that decision to be in relationship with this person. And then just move forward into your healing path. It will walk you into a relationship that you deserve. I'm Dr. Linda F. Williams. Always remember, your greatest power is realizing the truth of who you are. Know that truth. If this channel is of any benefit to you, if you like what you see, if it's helping you, please support the channel by hitting the subscribe button, leaving a comment, and like and share the video. Thanks.